everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and once again it is time for the Q&As, so let me get on my +5 hat of weaponsmithing, and let's knock this out. Alright, first question. What is the easiest and most convenient way for an undereater to get enough calories while still maintaining a relatively clean diet? I was eating a lot of junk food because that was the easiest way for me to get enough calories, but I wasn't getting enough fiber and probably had low nutrient values from all those empty calories. I started eating more clean, but I often have to force myself to eat enough and don't know if I can sustain this long term. I find easy source of calories to be milk and peanut butter, but more than one glass of milk upsets my stomach, and I also don't want to stuff myself with that much peanut butter. Not to mention I get pretty high fat intake by doing that. Any other suggestions? Alright, brother, it sounds to me like you are, again, the classic hard gainer. You're struggling to get enough in. Well, here's the reality. What most people find, the majority of people, even on a high-carb, starchy diet, struggle to get enough food, who are eating clean foods. That's one thing that a lot of the low-carb dieters fail to mention when this comes in. It's like, well, you know, I eat too much when I eat too many carbs. We're eating a bunch of sugar and crap. That's why. Most people are going to struggle to get fat eating brown rice and broccoli in copious amounts, except for a few people out there who have the enormous appetites. People like me can pull that off because we're like bottomless pits of anything. It doesn't matter what we eat. We can eat till we almost throw up and not feel full. But you know, most people aren't like that. So obviously your issue here is that, look, get the calories however you have to, at least if it's in the form of decently clean foods. I know you're worried about too much fat, and I normally tell people low-fat bulks are the way to go. But you know why I say that? Because most people are going to eat a little too many calories when they bulk anyways, and the lower fat's going to keep fat gain minimized. If you are struggling to eat enough to gain any weight at all, due to being, again, a chronic undereater, you're lifting, you're training, you're wanting to gain a few pounds. I mean, you're not sitting here trying to do a 15, 20 pound bulk and you're struggling to even hit anything above maintenance calories, that peanut butter is fine. Peanut butter is perfectly fine. It's a healthy food. There's plenty of nutrients in it. There's actually plenty of fiber. There's extra protein. There's a lot of good stuff in there. Don't be afraid of eating nuts. Peanut butter is an easy way to get those calories in. You can also try drinking your calories a little bit, and I understand the milk upsets your stomach. It does that to me too. So okay, you don't have to eat milk. No problem. You can make various blends of stuff. You could try blending bananas and peanut butter together. Make a shake. Liquid calories is going to be your thing, and liquid calories can allow you to get more food in without necessarily eating junk food. You know, you can make peanut butter and banana smoothies extremely cheap. You got plenty of calories in there, plenty of nutrition. Yes, it's higher fat, but if you're one of those guys who struggles to get even a 200 calorie surplus, you're not going to get fat by eating a higher fat diet in that case. You're the individual who doesn't need to worry about that. Don't sweat it. Find ways to blend stuff up, get your calories in however you can, and if that means you eat a little more fatty meat or you eat a bunch of nuts, peanut butter, almond butter, cashew butter, if that's what you have to do to get in the calories that you need to grow or to gain any weight, I wouldn't worry about it. The people who need to worry about higher fat diets causing them problems are people who easily eat a 500 calorie surplus. The people whose maintenance calories are 3,000 and they eat 3,500 like it's nothing, that's the people who are going to gain more fat from eating more fat in their diet. It doesn't sound like you're that type of person, so I actually wouldn't worry so much about the peanut butter. You got to put this stuff into perspective and put it into your individual needs, your individual appetite, energy turnover, and don't take all these rules as blanket statements across the board because they don't always apply to everyone. And in your case, I think you'll be just fine. All right, next question. In your novice program, can you do barbell shrugs behind instead of in front? It's literally impossible to not hit your dick or make it look like you're fucking the bar long dick style with Parkinsons. Alright, brother. You know what? If you don't want to do shrugs, don't do shrugs. In fact, I tell people if they're struggling with the workload of my novice program, and that is one of the biggest problems. People struggle with the workload. Take the shrugs out. Shrugs are not a necessary exercise. I threw them in there to give an extra standing exercise for a little more core, a little more trap, and for a little more total workload. If anyone is struggling with the program either from a time perspective or a recovery perspective due to the workload and volume, shrugs are the very first thing I pull out. They're not essential. Your traps are going to grow just fine with all of the rowing, deadlifting and overhead pressing in this program, you should have no trouble with your traps growing. Pull them out. Not the end of the world. It's perfectly fine. You know, and some people, due to their arm lengths, everything else, the shrugs are just going to hit them in the dick. They're going to hit them in the nuts. You know, some dudes are more endowed than others. Some dudes have shorter arms than others. Shrugs aren't possible for everyone. No need to go behind the back with them. Just throw them out. Not a big deal. It's going to be okay. All right, next question. Hi, Jason. I'm curious how you would change your novice program now that several years have passed. For example, new knowledge from studies for increased frequency, like pull-downs versus curls, chin-ups. Thanks for sharing your knowledge. All right, how would I change the novice program in retrospect? Short answer, like I just told him, pull the shrugs out. They're not necessary. Number two, there is so much pressing on this program, so much insane amounts of pressing, I would pull out the tricep extensions. Pull the tricep extensions out. Absolutely pull them out. You don't need them. People want arm work, there's still curls in there. Not a big deal. You got curls, you got chin-ups, you got all that for your biceps. But as far as triceps go, there's 3 different types of presses. And we're talking something like, what is it, 15 to 18 sets of heavy presses a week in the 5 to 8 rep range. That's a lot of volume. You know what? If anything, I would say that most people, one of the first things they're going to pull out of the program beyond that is going to be the tricep extensions. As far as frequency goes, you're hitting everything 3 times a week. I don't think we need to change that. You know what? When we talk about the ultra high frequency training, I don't think that's going to matter to novices. Novice lifters are going to grow so fast training with high volume, full body 3 days a week. I don't think there's anything we could do to increase it. Meaning, if anything, we need to take stuff out of this program. That's what we need to do. We don't need to be increasing anything, including the frequency. I don't think a novice could grow any faster than the way my program lays it out in terms of frequency, volume, anything else. If anything, we need to cut back just a hair. But a novice lifter, there's nothing I think that we could do that would make them grow faster than what this program does. My only concern is some people's recovery, possible overuse injuries. So we would pull those things out. You know what else I would recommend is a big change? When people get further into the program, I was always told people, look, stick it out. You can push it out. Keep doing the 5x5. No, I would say to most people, once they get to a certain threshold to where, let's say they've had to reset their squat 3 times, reset their deadlift 3 times, when you're getting to that point with the program to where you're starting to stall regularly, I would say go to the cutting version of the program. When you're easing in on that intermediate, when you know that you're just a few months from being an intermediate on the program, it's time to turn this novice program to go to my cutting version, which I wrote for people who aren't eating enough to recover. But by that same token, people need to remember work capacity versus recovery and maximum recoverable volume are not linear as far as with each other. So if anything, trimming some of that volume out of the program by cutting down to 3 sets of 5 and 2 sets of 8 instead of 5x5 and 3x8 might be the way to go. Once you start stalling several times, you gain tremendous strength and you're struggling to recover from the workloads. Cutting that volume back, taking out the shrugs, taking out the tricep extensions, and that would be the biggest changes I would make to this program today. It's still a fantastic program. I just think some of it's a little bit too much in terms of workload. And that's the biggest complaint I've had, is that some people just struggle with recovery due to the sheer amount of workload I'm throwing at them. And in retrospect, that's the one thing I would change after talking to people over the years who've run my program. And looking at the problems they've had where they've stalled, I think the workload, some of these exercises need to come out, a couple of them, and then reducing the workload over time in it. All right, next question. Although strength comes in a periodized block growth, doesn't seem to happen until deload week and after. Is it just in my head, or is there a reason behind this? No, it's actually a combination. A lot of people don't realize it when you're running block periodization. You're gaining strength in every single block. You are gaining strength. The purpose of the deloads is to let you to go ahead and gain a little more strength and a little more muscle than you do in your normal weeks as a result of overreaching. And yes, when you're running, say, a 12-week block periodization followed by a deload week, yes, you do gain as much strength from that single deload week as you do from most of the 3-week blocks. The strength gains are much higher for the week. That's probably the highest strength gain week in the whole program. But the thing is, you are gaining strength and adapting at each point. It's just that you start to stall a little every 3 weeks and you reset to a new progression system or rep range when you're doing linear periodization. So you actually are getting stronger in each 3-week block. You're gaining muscle in each 3-week block. It's just that overreaching near the end, you get the accumulation of all of that in there. And what ends up happening is that your deload week ends up being almost a month's worth of progress in that week as a result of the previous training. And it is the point that you do gain a little slower during the overreaching parts, simply because your body isn't recovering, but it plays catch up when you recover during a deload week. So that's what's going on. That's why it might seem like it. It might seem like it, but if you were to carefully track your numbers and look closely and do some math, you'll notice you are making gains. You're making gains in every one of the 3-week blocks. It's just that the gain jumps can be so dramatic for some people after the overreaching and the deloading that they don't actually realize in comparison that they did gain during the other weeks, and it can just throw you off a little bit. So that's what's going on. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time in part 2.